Hello there, gang. Welcome to Displaying-Model-Behaviour, the Earth's mightiest video podcast. The year 2024 is on the books, in the pocket, and out of sight. And I've been meaning to do a ranking of all the comic book Marvel legends for the longest time. Well, we're in the middle of February, and I'm finally getting to it. So sit back, relax, get nice and comfortable as I run you from the very worst to the very best of 2024's Marvel legends. So even though I do want this to be a positive video, we have to kick things off at the bottom of the list, and we're going to do that with X-Factor Wolfsbane. I mean, a lot of these figures are just going to speak for themselves. Look at the face sculpt. It's amazing to think that someone looked at that and went, yep, that'll do nicely. But they did, and here it is. So we finally completed the X-Factor team, but in the worst way possible. Now, before we go any further, I would like to take a quick pause for the cause to tell you all about this episode's sponsor, Raycon. Anyone who knows me knows that I literally don't leave the house without my earbuds in. Whether it's listening to podcasts, music, or talking to Misbehavior on the phone, if I'm out and about, I've got my everyday earbuds in and I'm enjoying the quality that Raycon provide. Whether I'm diligently working out in the gym or taking Piglet for a walk, Raycon ensure that I'm always connected. And considering how long Piglet can chase a stick for, that 32-hour battery life really comes in handy. Raycon's return policy is super easy, barely an inconvenience, with a 30-day happiness guarantee, no questions asked. Simply go to buyraycon.com/DMB to get up to 15% off site-wide. That's right, you get up to 15% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/DMB. Now, after Wolfsbane, we have Quicksilver, and the great thing about this list now is that pretty much every figure has some pretty decent features about it. This is a perfectly serviceable Quicksilver, except for the fact that his mutant power is that he runs, and when you run super fast, you kind of have the sprinter open hands, and on the box art, he has the sprinter open hands, and don't worry, because this figure has an extra pair of hands. They're not the sprinter hands. How did that make it past everyone? I thought that was kind of funny. Now, a bit of a funny one because these are animated versions, but they kind of count as comic book figures as well. We've got the cel-shaded Daredevil and Hydro Man. Me personally, I don't like cel-shaded figures, so this is always going to be a bit of a negative mark. But it's okay, I guess, for anyone who does like that aesthetic. And Hydro Man is pretty much just a reuse of the original Hydro Man, but now all translucent blue with an animated face, which does look kind of nice, but it's not enough to make me want to replace my original Hydro Man. Secret Wars Iron Man. Not a terrible figure, but also we've had this Iron Man so many times. We had the 80th, the OG, the hologram, another version that skips my mind, and now we have this one, but he has roller skates. Nope, not enough to justify another purchase from me, I don't think. Last Stand Spider-Man, or maybe I'm gonna call him Last Straw Spider-Man, because yeah, this ain't really a good action figure. I like the fact it's a different version of Spider-Man from an alternate future. You can throw him into the Spider-Verse if you want, but just as an action figure, there's not much action to be had with it. He's hard to articulate, it's a clumpy costume, no exciting extras or anything different, very flat, plain, plasticky looking paint job. Yeah, very underwhelming. And hot on the heels of Secret Wars Iron Man, we got Secret Wars Wolverine. I know, a lot of people do like this figure, so I'm not going to rag on it. It's very much based on the old 80s design. There's a lot of nostalgia there. But for me, I just see this kind of pale, mustard, yellow looking costume and a funny, smirky face, and I'm like, no, there are better Wolverines out there, and Lord knows, a lot of them to choose from. Spider-Shot! A figure that I know a lot of people were really unhappy about with the proportions and the style, the narrow shoulders, the big birthen hips, the huge thigh gap. Yeah, now that I rattle off all those things, I can understand there's a lot of points to dislike about it. I still kind of like the design though. It's cool and badass with the little finger bang blasting kind of effect there as well. It's nice enough that he's not at the dead bottom of the list, but I appreciate there's a heck of a lot of better figures on here. The Spider-Man and Wolverine 2-pack. Most 2-packs I'm sort of keeping together, or I'm discounting one of the other figures because it's just easier, really. And these are both very similar types of figures. Certainly one for the Fantastic Four collector who has everything. This is something that's kind of the good and bad of Marvel Legends, where, yeah, it's not a very exciting pack, but at the same time, two real obscure deep cuts look for characters. Yeah, that's one of the reasons we like Legends. They go deep into the lore. Venom Pool, a figure that under other circumstances would be way up the list. If this was the first time we had ever seen this figure, oh my goodness. He'd be top 10, he'd be battling it out for the #1 place. But this is just a Build-A-Figure repaint, so I can't really put him any higher because we've kind of already had him. He's not really a 2024 figure, but still, just by existing, he gets a decent-ish kind of place because, man, still one of the best figures that Marvel Legends have ever done. The Red Widow. This one a lot of people don't like because the cape is very restrictive. With that on, you really can't do much with the figure, and there's just a lot of bright red plastic that just takes up a lot of real estate on them, so not a very interesting looking figure either. Certainly if I was buying the full Zabu wave to make the Build-A-Figure, this is one I would have bought begrudgingly. The Rogue and Destiny 2-pack. First of all, just look at all the air in that box. Like, not a great looking presentation. And then for Destiny, you really want her to complete your Brotherhood, and if you do, you're gonna have to pay a Rogue tax. Never like the 2-pack taxes that go on here. And Rogue, okay, it's a different version of Rogue, but I don't know how many people were desperately clamoring for the OG look. And then with Destiny, it's got the plastic cape, so not very exciting, considering that we have breached ground on cloth capes. To force people to buy a 2-pack to get one character, you could have at least done the best job you could do with that other character, but instead, they're both pretty bare bones. Doctor Strange and Morbius, just like Daredevil and Hydro Man, it's an animated 2-pack, but you could kind of consider them comic booky if you want. And actually, I ain't mad at them. Doctor Strange is another re-release of the existing Doctor Strange with some slightly different paint and a few little tweaks, but nothing really to write home about. And Morbius, it's decent. It's a fun animated Morbius, but on a year that had a lot of really good figures, they can't really justify going too high. This one might be a little bit controversial. Secret Wars Black Costume Spider-Man. Not going very high on the list, but not because he's a bad figure, but just we've got a few different Black Costume Spider-Men now. So if you got the retro one, do you really need to replace it with this one? Possibly not. Yes, he's pinless, but then again, it's the black costume, so even with pins, they don't show up too much. That notwithstanding though, it is still a nice figure in its own right. Namorita, not a bad figure, but it's kind of annoying that it's this modern version of the character, when really I think a lot of collectors, being in this age demographic that a lot of us are, would probably have wanted the more classic New Warriors looking version. Maybe the pale skin one with the green swimsuit, the blonde hair, that's more of that New Warriors 90s aesthetic that would have gone with more existing characters. Going for this more modern kind of look, she doesn't really fit in with much else, so she's okay, but a little bit frustrating, because you know chances are if you're a completionist, you're going to be holding out for a 90s one eventually, and probably end up double dipping. Helverine. Now this is my problem with current Marvel Legends. This should have been a pack-in. Just like some meetings could have been an email, this standalone action figure could have been optional extras. Back in the good old days, I remember Sensational Spider-Man, Ben Reilly. He came as Spider-Man, and he had the alternate head and hands, so you could make Spider Carnage. Why couldn't this have come packaged with a brown suit Wolverine? Brown suit Wolverine, but with Helverine head and claws. Well, I'll tell you why. They wouldn't be able to sell two figures that way. And yeah, that's kind of a shame. Veering once again from comic books, we've got the arcade Sentinels, which I will still employ in this comic book list because, there's a little crossover. I don't like them personally, but probably because I was hoping too much when we knew there were going to be Sentinels coming that would be getting a chunkier army builder, as opposed to these very stylized ones. But my own disappointment notwithstanding, I do appreciate that they're not bad looking figures, even though the extra they come with, the extra accessory is a rock. We have rocks at home. Moon Knight. What did I just say about Captain America? Well, pretty much the same things. The existing Moon Knights that we have are all pretty decent. Is this an improvement? Absolutely. Definitely an improvement on the originals, but not so much to really warrant a double dip, a second purchase, or a higher place on this list. Retro Carnage. I'm so torn on this one. I love the reused Carnage body with the sculpted in black goo and the sinews of the muscles. That's lovely. Plus, they've given him the axe hand from the Maximum Carnage Mark Bagley kind of look. But then, that face, that gerbil rabbit teeth looking Carnage face, it's a swing and a miss for me on that one. Damian Hellstrom, an interesting one here because this was going to be one of the Engine of Vengeance tiers. So Hasbro have established, hey look, just because you don't get something as a Haslab doesn't mean we can't go back to the well and give it to you. So it's nice that we have him, but then when you look at this figure, it's just a shirtless dude with a trident, really. It's okay, but nothing I'm going to get too excited about. Secret Wars Captain America. This is another funny one. The whole line is because there's a lot of reuse, but the figures that they do make with that reuse are very nice. So if this was the only Cap that we had, he would have been much higher. But we've got the 20th anniversary Cap. We got the 80th Cap. So having this one, it's just more of a variation on a theme. His new heads look great. I love the bright blue paint job. But if you got the 20th anniversary Cap like I do, this is pretty much surplus to requirements. Warlord Professor Xavier. I never read this era of the X-Men, but from what I understand, and stop me if I'm wrong, this does tie in nicely with the yellow and blue training suits. So if you've gone for that whole sub-genre of X-Men, it's great to add this Xavier to them to fill out that collection. But for me personally, I don't have too much connection to him. Bloodstorm, so wonderfully random of a character to get. I know this character from Mutant X, the alternate reality short-lived series where Havoc went to a crazy Age of Apocalypse type world where everything's kind of gone wrong, and Storm's a vampire. Also, from what I understand, I think this character has crossed over and featured in the 6162. A nice figure, 2 different heads, new civilian-looking kind of body and clothes. That's really cool, but again, kind of a subline type character, so nothing that I would want to rush out and purchase. Justice. You know the problems I had with Nefaria? Well, you can apply those to Justice as well. I'm a kid of the 90s, so of course for me personally, and this is a very subjective list, I wanted a more 90s looking Justice to go with. Who do we have? We got Rage, and we got the skateboard dude. Yeah, we've got enough 90s New Warriors to justify a 90s aesthetic. So the fact that this is more of a modern looking Justice, dang it, once again, he doesn't really fit with the rest of the collection. Big Boots Iron Man, that's what I'm calling him, and that's what I'm going to stick with. He's fine, but it's another Iron Man armor. I know a lot of people really like this. I'm not saying it's a bad figure, but for me, it's just another red and yellow Iron Man. We got tons of those already, so he doesn't do much for me. Savage Namor. I kind of like it sometimes when I see a version of a character that I'm unfamiliar with, but I just dig the aesthetic. And I actually dig the aesthetic of this guy. Don't know where he's from exactly, don't know why this Namor is so savage, but kind of makes for a fun looking figure. Big wild hair, the more elaborate underwater armor. Yeah, I kind of like this guy. Superior Iron Man. I was really kind of torn on this one because I don't entirely like the very white kind of costume, but also it does match up with a lot of the artwork, but not what I consider the most quintessential Superior Iron Man artwork, which I think depicts him more of a silvery, pearlescent kind of look. They almost cracked it with this, but just not quite. But it's close enough to, I think, get at least a passing grade. Great that they've got the unmasked Tony head. That's looking good. He is one of those characters that's going to very much kind of stand on his own, not really with a team or specific timeline, but as a fun wave filler, it's not a bad figure. Baron Zemo and Arnim Zola 2-pack. Now, Arnim Zola, they've just reused this for a third time now, so that's like, come on, guys. So they got the third time to dip in with this character. But Zemo, they did a kind of nice job with this. A real face only a mother could love, Jason Voorhees looking Chevy Chase going on here. They went all in with that, so I give that points and I appreciate it. Plus the fact that we've got the Zemo Jr., we've now got a bit of a Zemo timeline, I like that. Once again, it's Marvel Legends doing what we hate to love them for, or love to hate them for, is that they're giving us very, very obscure characters, but boy howdy, they're making us pay through the nose for them. The Secret Empire Captain America when Cap's going mean. I like this. I really do. This costume, it's not a classic costume, but man, just for a time it was there in the comics and I think it was pretty wicked. And you can just see this character sneering down at the camera that you're looking up at him from, just saying, "Hail Hydra." It's pretty badass. I mean, I liked the Secret Empire story. It had some dumbness in it, but it also had some pretty badass moments. And the reveal of Cap as working for Hydra all along, even if it wasn't really the case, was still pretty awesome. The Beyonder, Disco Beyonder more specifically, one of the two original characters from the Secret Wars wave. A lot of people were very happy to finally get a Beyonder figure. Maybe not necessarily the more space, sci-fi looking version of the character that folks might have wanted, but hey, you know, that's always going to show up eventually. In the meantime, you get 70s disco jumpsuit version. Easy for me to say, but I like the little battle world that he's forming as well in his hands. Not a figure that I need for my collection, but I think a lot of people were happy to add him to their shelves. Black Winter Thor, or just Black Winter. I originally thought this was a variant of Thor, a differently powered version of Thor. But actually, from what I understand, no, this is a villain, entity, spirit, god thing that has taken on this form of Thor. And it's called the Black Winter, and the more I describe it, the more badass it sounds. So this is just a reworking of the Herald of Galactus Thor. But what a reworking it is. I think this kind of very dark, dusky blue paint job looks pretty wicked. So yeah, it's reuse, but it's very nice reuse. Ka-Zar, a very basic figure, but also a pretty nice one too. The fact that he is just a Tarzan-type loincloth kind of character, there's not a lot you can do with him, but what they did looked good. I like all the details on his, I don't know, posing pouch, I guess, whatever you want to call it, loincloth. There you go, that sounds a bit more normal. The details on his loincloth, the face sculpt is kind of nice, considering that he doesn't have a lot of other things going on. An extra head would have been appreciated. But hey, the fact that we got Ka-Zar with a Zabu Build-A-Figure, for classic Marvel fans, I'd call that a win. Sam Wilson, Captain America. Originally I had this guy higher, but then some smart people pointed out that this character it's just the wings that are new. The actual Sam Wilson figure came out a while ago, I think in a 3-pack. So just with the wings added, there's not that much to go on, but the pack together, it does make a nice version of the Sam Wilson cap. Brother Voodoo, bit of an underwhelming one this for me, because we've got Brother Voodoo at home. Yes, he's an older version, but he looks very, very similar, to the point where I was ready to get up in arms when they first announced this guy, because I was like, have you literally just repacked the old one? No, this is a new one, but it just doesn't feel that different to really warrant getting excited about. Doctor Strange and Wong, technically kind of a 3-pack if you want to include Bats as well, and I think it's Bats that helps elevate this quite a bit, because Doctor Strange is great, but it's the third version, or the second version that we've had of this Doctor Strange. So they've done a different head sculpt, it's okay, but really it's Wong that people want this pack for. So again, it's the Hasbro tax. If you want an obscure character like Wong, you better be prepared to buy an extra figure to go with him. But hey, it is a nice Doctor Strange. Plus, you got the adorable Bats ghost dog. I mean, what's not to love? Well, having to buy a figure you don't want, but guess what? Deal with it. Lilith, there you go. This is Marvel Legends doing things the way that you want to see it. A very obscure character that's just, boom, put out there. No multi-packs, no Build-A-Figures. I mean, she contains a Build-A-Figure piece, I think. But you can just buy her. There you go. Lilith, a random ooky spooky Ghost Rider type villain. I say Ghost Rider, anyone who dabbles in the dark arts is going to be confronted by Lilith at some point. I don't know why I give myself such tongue twisters to say, but I like what they did here. Yes, there's a lot of detail that's just painted on, like the fishnets and whatnot, but hey, it's a very obscure character. I'll accept a more basic version. I really kind of like this. Black Panther, probably my favorite version of the Black Panther costume. The black with the gold accents, I think they kind of pop. I do like this. Could have gone higher, maybe, but we do have lots of versions of Prince T'Challa. Is it King T'Challa? Prince T'Challa? It's King T'Challa, isn't it? Yeah. So I can't really put him too high just because there's a lot of other Black Panthers. But if you line them all up next to each other, me personally, I think this might be my favorite. The Vision. I wanted this to be more, just because I have the original Vision from 2015, 2016, which is showing its age a bit, and I want to upgrade him. But this, I feel, could have been more. This is like the basic bare bones of a Vision. A cloth cape would have been nice, maybe some more power effects or a more, raw kind of head. I know he's an android, he's pretty much cool and calm all the time, but hey, I just still want raw going into battle type faces. So he's a perfectly good Vision. That's all he really is. The Prowler, Hobie Brown, another updated version of a character, and it's a decent update this time around. Two different heads. I love that we have an unmasked Hobie Brown head. That was a nice surprise right there. I like the lighter color scheme. The cape, of course, is plastic, but it's not too constrictive by the looks of things. For a retro Spider-Man collection, I'm very tempted, actually, to get this guy, because he's a big player in Spider-Man. So, yeah, I think he should be on my shelf. I might have to remedy that. The Cabal 3-pack. Now, this was a real difficult one to grade, and all these figures could be in different places, because Doctor Doom is, just chef's kiss, glorious Marvel legend, but it's also the third version of this guy that we've had. We've had the Super Skrull wave, we had the retro, now we've got this one, and it's really just the cloth cape and some slightly different paintwork, but man, that's a pretty cloth cape right there. I mean, now at this point in the list, they're pretty much all good figures. Taskmaster, a worthy upgrade to the original one. One that you would have to look to see okay, what is actually different? But when you notice it, you can appreciate it. And then Iron Patriot, so good to get a new Iron Patriot, but bit of a shame that he's got this very flat color scheme. Looks very plasticky. I think some metallic paint would have really made him pop a whole lot more. So it's a mixed bag of a box set, but all of them I would say are good or above. So they get a good place on the list. Whiplash. I've heard mixed things about this guy. A lot of people don't like his whip. I kind of understand that. If only they could have made it bendy and manipulatable. Yeah, that's a word. But it's also Whiplash. I love my BCD tier list villains, and this is a great one. I love silly looks as well, with his pink cowl and the green ponytail. He's striking, he jumps off the shelf, even if he's not perfect, even if he still has a very stoic face, I still kind of like him. Hallows Eve, Ben Reilly's main squeeze. Didn't think we'd be getting an action figure of this girl, but I'm glad that we did, because they went real hard with this figure. They put a lot of effort into a very new and not yet really established character, and I appreciate that. Giving her all her different masks that she can wear. She's got a satchel to put them in. I really like it. I'm a big kid for Halloween, so anything of that aesthetic I'll always kind of warm to, and genuinely, I think they did a great job with this. Count Nefaria. Again, a great old school cartoony kind of villain. Kind of bare bones, not too many extras, but what's there, it's bright and colorful, and I love the face sculpt. It looks kind of animated, but also in keeping with the rest of the comic book aesthetic of all the other characters. Just a bright, bold, villainous character to have on your shelf. I really like the look of this guy. Power Princess. Jacked up muscle mummy, what's not to love? And I think a lot of people do love her because she's quite hard to come by now. Also, the fact that she rounds out the team that she's in, that I was trying to avoid saying the name of because I couldn't remember it. I'll sort that out in the edit. But that was great. Hasbro, again, doing what we always want them. Squadron Supreme. There you go. I knew it would come to me. They actually started a team and finished the team within about a calendar year. That's customer service. I'd like to see more like that. Joe Fixit and Patch, what a great 2-pack this is, because it's a rare example of a 2-pack being a worthy 2-pack. If you want one of these guys, you're gonna want the other. It makes sense, they fit together. So selling them as a 2-pack, perfectly logical, and both of them look terrific. Especially Joe Fixit, with the big grey Hulk furrowed brow, the alternate heads, both of them could be either kind of cool chill guys or launching into battle. That's what I want. This is a great example of what a multi-pack should be. And speaking of multi-packs, Crystal and Lockjaw. Bit of a controversial one that they gave Lockjaw swap-outable legs rather than articulating them, but I will kind of defend that. I'll be a Hasbro defender, which is quite random for me, but I would only have them either standing up or sitting down. So you might as well have a nice seamless sat down position. Maybe that's spurious, but I'm sticking with it. But really, it's the face sculpts for Lockjaw that I love. He just looks like such a good boy. I love a doggo, and that's adorable. And Crystal, as a standalone figure, looks real nice too. So yeah, I approve of this. Now the 2-pack tax is back in full effect, this time with Lilandra and Brood Wolverine. Real egregious that Brood Wolverine doesn't even appear in a story with a Lilandra. But it's like, oh, space, aliens, yeah, they can go together. Oh, yeah, y'all were pushing that one, lads. But look, it's great to have Lilandra, and Lilandra is a great-looking figure as well. And if you want to have Brood Wolverine, like, it doesn't look bad, I guess. But again, kind of like Ghost Rider Wolverine, Helverine, you could have maybe just made it like some pack-in extras rather than a whole extra figure. But hey, last year was the year of the Wolverine tax, and a lot of people were willing to pay it, myself included. Titania, rounding out the Secret Wars wave, the second original character, and it's great to see her. Again, a big jacked up female character, something quite rare in the Marvel Universe Legends line. But now that we've got She-Hulk as well, who we'll be talking about later, it's great to have a kind of counterpoint that you can have her battling against. This is a really fun one. I do like this a lot. Gold Iron Man may be controversial considering how high up he is on the list with a whole lot of reuse going on, but I love the reuse because they did a good job. And it's not just a repaint of the Silver Iron Man. He's got the skirt going around there as well. They threw in the 20th anniversary head too. It's just an overall lovely looking, bright, colourful package. You can have this alongside your 20th anniversary Hulk and Captain America, really bulking out that classic first Avengers team. I'm a sucker for it. I really like this dude. Icarus, bit of a surprise one. I don't know if we're going to see many more Eternals, but the design for this guy, I just like the aesthetic. Sometimes a figure is pretty basic. This is one of them. Not much going on for him, but just the design style of his costume, the colors, the lines, the shapes, the way it's all put together. I dig it. I think it looks real nice, and this is a good looking action figure. We're poison to you, Spider-Man. We are Venom. The quintessential Venom, quite possibly. A lot of reuse once again, but a lovely overall package. So you got the Life Foundation. Yes, you have the Life Foundation tongue sticking out head, but you don't have the symbiote wrapping around head. So you do lose a cool Eddie Brock transformation head, but what you gain is a great looking Todd McFarlane, Ryan Stegman looking Venom head. Possibly my favorite one. Yeah, you don't have the big lashing tongue, but just this real sinister, badass looking 90s Venom. I really like it. I really do. Haven't bought him yet, but it kind of feels like a matter of time at this point. Our first Build-A-Figure on the list now, Zabu. A Build-A-Figure that I think really does benefit from actually being seen completed. In pictures, it's like, it's just a big tooth kitty cat. But when you see him in person, you realize, this is a big Build-A-Figure here. I mean, maybe not compared to other Build-A-Figures, but compared to just a regular figure, Zabu's got some girth to him. He is a big, badass looking, monstrous kitty cat. So I really like what they did. The texture on the fur looks real nice. The paint job's good. The expression in the face. Overall, really solid Build-A-Figure. Man-Thing. Now again, a little bit of a compromise. Yes, this is technically MCU Disney+, but come on. You could totally just use this as a 616 Man-Thing. In fact, they used the 616 Man-Thing for a lot of this figure, but I'm impressed with the new things that they've done. I like the Disney Plus style head. I like the extra sculpting work on the body, the different paints. It's nice. He's a big, huge, hulking, monstrous Man-Thing that also looks kind of adorable with those big red eyes, and yeah, I really dig him. This is a nice deluxe figure. And speaking of compromises, the Spider-Man and Vulture animated 2-pack. Not really interested in Spider-Man. You can bin him off, once again paying that Spider-Man tax. But Vulture, this is the 90s Vulture that I always wanted to get my hands on. The Life Theft Vulture. Really great that they have the old head and the young head as well, so you can mix up the different looks. Of all the 90s costume redesigns that we got, this more armored Vulture I actually thought was really cool and made a lot of sense. Even though this is an animated figure, it's not cel-shaded or overly animated. You could totally put him in with your 616 90s collection, and that's exactly what I plan to do. Now a real popular figure from last year, She-Hulk. And I get it. I held off on getting this character for the longest time. Then I finally saw her in person. I was like, I gotta take you home with me. And I'm glad I did, but not thrilled. The hair is very restrictive. You really can't move the head in all the different ways you might want to. Plus, she only has the smiley face. I would have wanted a more going into battle type look. So there's a few caveats here and there. Also, it's a classic costume, but it's not the one I want. And obviously what I want is most important. So it's a great figure. I can see the appeal, but there's definitely tweaks that could be made, and probably will be made in the future, to make it the ultimate version of Jennifer Walters. And now it's my boy Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider. Of course, I could have put this guy way higher on the list, purely because of who he is, but I'm trying to at least be a little bit subjective. Not much though, but even then, this is a very nice figure. He only has the one head, but he's got a few different thwipping hands, and also it's the Renew Your Vows body, so it's a decent body to have Spider-Man on, and the sculpting work on the vest is real nice, and they've done all of his external web shooters, his pockets and pouches, the ankle straps. They've done Ben Reilly justice. I was very happy with this. Marvel vs. Capcom Cabal. Oh, we're going to be getting more Capcom style figures. Of course I say Capcom, I know it's not officially Capcom, but you know what I'm talking about. And this is a big, hefty Cable, and he's only got the one face, and it's quite stoic. Normally I wouldn't like that, but there's enough intensity going on with the look that I think it's perfect Cable. If I didn't have the Revoltech, this would be a guaranteed purchase. Definitely one of the best ones from this year. And speaking of Capcom, we've got the Blackheart Build-A-Figure. And this, of course, is one that we've been wanting for a while. The old Toy Biz one actually still holds up pretty nicely, but man, come on, this Build-A-Figure, it might not look too impressive at a glance because it's all just black. But then when you see it up close, it's got the texture and the spikes and the size and the meanness. Looks real imposing. Yeah, fantastic for a Marvel vs. Capcom display. I really got to start building that. The Wolverine and Sabretooth 2-pack, or just Sabretooth with your Wolverine tax, because that's what this is. Sabretooth is the star of this show. This is the tall, big, imposing, terrifying Victor Creed that we've wanted for a long, long time. Two different heads with two very different looks. That's the important thing, and also makes the Wolverine look even worse, that he has two different heads with two almost identical looks. But I'm almost willing to completely forgive it, because that Sabretooth, he's an absolute banger. Deluxe Angel. This is one I felt a little bit funny about where to place him, because if you take the wings away, it's a very basic figure. But you know what? no one has taken the wings away. That would be weird. Instead, you've got these beautifully sculpted wings, and this, of course, is the huge selling point of the character. He does look lovely. Two different heads that look very similar, but just very small tweaks that kind of define him for different eras and different teams. I'm really hoping one day we get blue-skinned Archangel in this kind of style. In the meantime, though, the more jovial, bright and happy feather-winged Angel, he does look great. Deluxe Kang. I was torn because it's a re-release of Kang, but I mean, what a re-release. This throne that he's on is pretty darn impressive. Giant floating solid gold toilet. What's not to love about that? And at least they didn't just re-release Kang, but they gave him some new faces as well, and that's very much appreciated. With the, I think it's a different gun as well, maybe a blast effect, I'm racking my brains now, but the overall package is a real great deluxe way of reusing what you had before, but actually making it worth a second go round. Scar, the son of Hulk. I didn't really care for this when I saw it, mainly because it's a character I'm not really familiar with, and I don't really like the shade of green they've used. But I will be the first to admit, that's the shade of green that the character is in the comics. And then when you look closer at it, even just being objective, I gotta say, it's a good looking figure. Big, chunky, hefty, got his weapons, he looks mean. Even if I don't care for the character, I recognize a good action figure when I see it. Tombstone. This was a real surprise. The Tombstone we had a few years ago was great, really good, still holds up. But suited and booted, gangster Tombstone, that is a worthy improvement on the original. But then they went and did an extra head sculpt as well. That looks real mean. They went hard on this Tombstone, more so than I would have ever expected them to. And the final result, honestly, looks really wicked. I love what they've done with this guy. Crystar, this is a funny one. Such a completely random figure to get. And I think I'm placing him quite high just because of how unusual he is. I don't know the character, but this translucent space knight? Yeah, okay, you kind of won me over just from that. I appreciate what they've done. It's unusual, weird, but also has made a lot of people really happy. I know people were psyched to get this guy. Kind of like Rom Space Knight. Don't know him, but I love that people are happy. And yeah, this guy, he made a lot of people happy. His name is Dracula. Funny, a lot of people don't like this figure, but also a lot of people aren't me. Lucky for them. I really do like this figure. I think this is what a Marvel Legend should be. Pretty much completely original sculpt by the looks of things, and also two completely different heads. So you got the stoic, you got the raging into battle, he's got his weapons as well. I love it. The only caveat I would say is that maybe his armor is a bit too just red all over. Bit of a wash or some shading would have made it look a bit more interesting, a bit more real world, you know what I mean? But even then, it goes to show how much I really do love this figure, that he's jacked up high on the list regardless of that, because I think everything else going on with this Dracula, I think it looks wicked. Warbird. Interestingly, I'm not sure if I like this figure as much as I think I like this figure. But a lot of people, like, they really dig this Warbird, and I think it kind of rubs off on me. And I appreciate that the two different heads, the fact that it's a Carol Danvers look that we've wanted for a long time, all these elements come together to make me think, yeah, I think I do. I think I do like this. Some folks say that she's a little bit too short. I'm not too strict on that, so I can let that go, especially if I'm just having her flying into battle, which is what I would be doing. So for the overall aesthetic, it gets a strong pass from me. Another Wolverine tax. But look, if you're gonna pay a tax, it might as well be for a good figure. And Lady Mandarin Psylocke, yeah. Oh my, that's the frustration, you see. If Lady Mandarin Psylocke was a single release figure, oh, she would be even higher. Because the whole sculpt work on this figure, beautiful. beautiful. Plus the different hands, the different heads, so great, really great. But then you got to buy Wolverine to go with her, and that Wolverine, if I was grading these as like separate figures, he'd be down the list, way down the list. But still, you know me, I love to accentuate the positives, and Lady Mandarin, yeah, she's definitely worth accentuating. Jack-o'-lantern, isn't it great when sometimes you just get exactly what you want? That's what this Jack-O-Lantern is. This is the exact retro version of the pumpkin head guy that I really, really wanted to see in my Marvel display. We've got a more modern one from many years ago, but now they've done the OG classic and they did him justice. When you have a flaming pumpkin on your head, it's pretty hard to mess up, and they didn't. They fully delivered. I really love this. The Shield 3-pack. It's lucky that I'm grading these multi-packs together, because it's really hard to distinguish which one of these is better or not, because they all kind of have the same elements. Good looking body, different heads, like they're all just a complete package of an action figure. And once again, it's a multi-pack I have no problem with putting together, because all of these characters needed new versions, especially Dum Dum. I think we got a Toy Biz Dum Dum like 20 years ago or more, so seeing them all in this Shield 3-pack, it's a beautiful thing to behold. If I had to pick one, maybe Nick Fury, because I'd love classic old David Hasselhoff Nick Fury, but all three of them are absolute bangers. And our third Build-A-Figure for the list, it's the Void. I thought this looked cool in pictures, and then I saw him in a display cabinet, and the light from the sun was shining through his translucent, red, demonic, eldritch horror body. Yeah. This Lovecraftian nightmare is pretty amazing. And also you really get to see like how much work has been put into the weird scorpion limbs and tendrils and everything going on. Looks terrifying. The fact you can pair him up with the newish Sentry figure as well. Oh, absolutely terrific. This is what Build-A-Figures should be. I really love this guy. I'm so hoping we haven't seen the end of Build-A-Figures, because I want more action figures like this. And keeping it going with the big chonky boys, we've got Hulkbuster. And they put some fun work into this. I love the Tony Stark head that you can have with kind of the padding around him and just have it nestled in there with the suit. That's really, really cool. And also just the size. Even seeing this on the live stream, you don't really appreciate how big this is. It's not the classic Hulkbuster suit, but it's good enough. It's not that it's like not good, it's just they chose this aesthetic. And I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that, because pairing this up with your 616 Hulk, those guys are going to look great button heads on the shelf. I really, really dig this. Now we're getting into the real big dogs here. Astonishing Wolverine. You want to talk about a complete Wolverine package? This is everything you need right here. Snarling masked head, check. Unmasked head with a good looking sculpt and paintwork, check. All the different hands, boom. Decent claws, nice. Red and yellow red and yellow? Was he Hulk Hogan? I hope not. Yellow and blue costume, check. It's all you need. Of course, Tiger Stripe is my favorite version of Wolverine, Jim Lee X-Men 92 style, but for a more modern one, this is terrific. Real nice. You could maybe argue there's just a lot of yellow going on, but that's just the costume. Yeah, for a full package, this one ticks all the boxes. Now, a couple of figures I totally underestimated originally. Luke Cage and Iron Fist. What a pair, and a great 2-pack once again. Would classic Tiara type Luke Cage have been a better fit for this? Maybe, but we got him separately. So now you've got a modern Luke Cage with an Iron Fist who you could consider classic or modern, really. A lot of people, myself included, would have liked more of a V-taper in Iron Fist's costume rather than just straight down, but whatever your aesthetics might be, you can't take away the fact that both characters have multiple heads, multiple hands, looking badass, really great set. Kind of like Jack-O-Lantern, a figure that I was trying to manifest and will into existence. Superior Spider-Man. Otto Octavius or Elliot Tolliver, whatever you want to call him. I can call him Peter Parker as well, I suppose. But they've done a fantastic job with this. Forgetting the original Superior Spider-Man we had many years ago, they've done the character justice with the huge big spider legs. Going a bit unusual with the alternate head as well, doing the painting of the buildings reflected in the lenses. You know what? I'm not a huge fan of it, but I appreciate trying something different. They used a slightly older Spider-Man body, which I was a bit kind of like, about, a bit disappointed, but that's not enough to take away from the great job they did with everything else. I really, really love this. Jean Grey's Phoenix, with of course the big selling point being the huge big Phoenix display stand. Now with this ranking, I'm not thinking about price. I'm just thinking about the figures that I would like, because you could always argue like, wow, okay, that's a lot to pay for a Jean Grey with a display piece. So yeah, I appreciate that. But also I appreciate a gigantic flying Phoenix fiery display base. So, you know, there is a lot to love there. So if you want to get a quintessential Jean Grey, I think you'd be hard pressed to find something better than this. Welcome back, Frank. It's the Punisher and Bushwhacker 2-pack. What a beautiful surprise this was. So great to have the Punisher getting represented with new merchandise, new action figures, and what a great way to welcome him back. All the accessories in here. This is terrific. Again, a 2-pack that makes sense. Bushwhacker. Wouldn't have had that dude on my Marvel Legends bingo card. And they made him look gross and unsettling and Cronenbergian and just so cool. The alternate heads on Frank both look really terrific. The guns, the explosions, the hand grenades. Love it, love it, love it. This is doing the character justice. Really awesome. Bring on more Punisher figures. At long last, finally, we got Danny Ketch, Ghost Rider. Not perfect, but good enough that I really do love him. The bike is great. You could argue maybe just like a tiny bit smaller than you'd want it to be, but it's big enough. It's big enough to work. That's the important thing. All the flame effects look terrific. The flame stand looks wonderful. The Ghost Rider figure itself, there's a bit of reuse in there that I would have liked to have seen some new stuff done with. A lot of people said he's a bit too short. I never really put that together, but he could have been bigger, I suppose. But still, all of that notwithstanding, the fact he's so high on the list means that there's a lot to love. This Ghost Rider, yeah, I got a lot of love for him. And now the final 2-pack of the list, and what a 2-pack it is. We were speaking before about 2-packs that make sense. Ant-Man and the Wasp, beautiful. And also, I was saying about the gold Iron Man, making your classic Avengers team right here. This is what I'm talking about. And the cloth goods, man. Got cloth goods in there and alternate heads, and all the alternate heads look beautiful. Some of the best Legends work that they've ever done with the painting and sculpting on these. Having said all that, I didn't buy it, and I was really torn because they are very retro. And Ant-Man is kind of cancelled out by the Haslab, so I didn't bite on it. But I kind of live with the regret because I kind of wish I did. Another figure that I never would have had on my bingo card for last year, Death's Head. What a wonderful surprise this was in the retro collector card type packaging. This, you know, was a labor of love for someone, and he made so many people happy to see it. We've had Death's Head too, but we wanted the OG, and we got him, and they did him justice. He's big. He's real big, chunky, metallic paintwork, a whole lot of details going on in there. The crazy looking face sculpt design, really awesome. Everything I could have wanted from the Death's Head, this guy crushed it. And now, before we get to the number one, kind of an honorable mention, I suppose, is the Haslab Giant Man. Because I don't feel it's really fair to judge a Haslab against all the other figures. It's kind of its own thing when I'm doing the overall greatest Marvel Legends rankings ever. I always keep the Haslabs kind of to one side. They're their own thing. But hey, we gotta mention him. He delivered, even if his eyes were crossed for some. Not a perfect thing, but still, it's Giant Man. It's exactly what it needed to be, and it's a huge Giant Man. So yeah, he's not without his flaws, but he was still a really good Haslab. I'm very glad that I got him. And finally, in the number one spot, it has to be the King Odin figure. What I said before, a labor of love. A labor of love clearly went into this as well. All new, everything, huge, big, chunky figure, different heads with very unique looks to each one. I'm not a Norse Asgardian collector, but I kind of feel like I need to get him because he's just such a great example of a Marvel legend. Is he expensive? Yes, he is. But again, I'm not grading money value. I'm just grading a cool figure. This is a cool figure. Not overly articulatable. I'm still not sure if that's a word, but it's enough. I mean, he just really needs to either sit on a throne or stand stoic and looking badass, and That's exactly what he does. So certainly if you want to grade a Marvel Legends just for the wow factor, yeah, this dude gets a solid #1 for the wow factor, and everything else that's gone into him is pretty darn impressive as well. Definitely for me, #1 of the year. And folks, that does it for my countdown of every comic book Marvel Legend and a few other ones from 2024. What did you think about the list? What did you think about my rankings and places? How wrong was I? Comment below, let me know. And if you enjoyed this, then you could have been a part of putting it together. I did this as a channel member live stream. We went through all these figures and we made this list ourselves. So a lot of the channel members, you had your say. And guys, I'm so grateful for it because you're keeping Dave alive by supporting the channel, helping me pay the rent and buy the food and keep making these videos. So thank you so much for that. And if you want to be a part of the creative process, then you can pick yourself up a channel membership and join in all the near daily live streams that I do, where we workshop all of this nonsense that then gets turned into videos. So guys, thank you so much for all your support. What is the list going to look like next year when we're ranking 2025s? We've had a few bangers already, and this year's just getting started. So guys, thanks for watching, and until next time, keep displaying model behavior.
Coffee. Big time